It's Tuck Erie and the Joel Natale Show, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. Glad that you're tuned in. Also live on Facebook and on YouTube. And we have the crucial conversations that Erie needs, and once a month we check in with the Chief Executive of Erie County. It's our County Executive, Mr. Brenton Davis. Brent, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you as well.
You've been working today. You got your.
I'm about to head there.
Okay, you're heading out.
You don't keep construction clothes here at the studio.
I should totally
go to job number 2 after this.
What are you working on today?
I've got a bunch of stuff. I got a couple of construction projects going. I got some equipment stuff to do, some fabricating to do, probably till 11, 12 o'clock tonight.
So I know this is not county business, but being in construction, like when you were full time solely doing this, what's like that key date that you say I can get out there and start doing some major earth moving or get out in the water? I mean, how early can you do that? March?
It never really stops, but like March. Figure. We had guys on on the prison roof March, April.
Okay,
So it's all weather dependent and what you do. You cut trees, the ground's frozen, you can go get it. That's the key of being self-employed, is being nimble to be able to, keep people in work, keep some income rolling, and be versatile enough where you can you can make a few bucks no matter what the weather's doing. You always got to be versatile. That's the key to self-employment.
While I'm thinking about it, let's talk about any kind of after action or any kind of evaluation from Snowmageddon, from the day after Thanksgiving, because that's having ramifications right now. Certainly in the mayor's race, people are talking about the condition of the city and so on. From your point of view, in the county perspective, what have you heard from Secretary Carroll? I'm thinking about all the people that you had to connect with.
So we did an official after action review. That's standard with any natural disaster. Anything from the wildfires, but this is a major statewide after action review where we had PennDOT, we had all the folks in the room. Just a lot of things. I think a lot of people were just amazed at how quickly we were able to kind of forecast, hey, we're in trouble, number one, and number two, to start moving the equipment, getting PennDOT on the horn, working with those folks to move the equipment from as far as Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Right. We brought in 100 pieces of equipment. 100 additional pieces of equipment, and that's not counting, what the county stepped up and used our municipal gap funding, our ARPA funds for, to hire private contractors, and then in turn we turned around and sent a bill to get ECRA to pay that to help keep people's taxes low like it's meant to be. But it's really being able to put that stuff together, and no matter how many natural disasters we faced, we didn't lose a single life.
Right.
38 wildfires, and then 10 days later, we have Snowmageddon. I think the other thing that PennDOT was amazed at is comparing the snow event of 2017, where we had a little bit less snow, but we got it all in a 24-hour period as opposed to over 2 weeks.
Right.
And it took them the better part of 2.5 weeks, where we were able to dig out in 5 days. So, it was just, that for me was a lesson learned. Seeing how the county didn't really take a proactive role. It's one thing to sit in the talk or sit at public safety, or the executive sitting at home kind of monitoring through their public safety people. But that's the difference of boots on the ground, getting out there, digging folks out, coordinating the volunteers, bringing in economic development people, bringing in veterans affairs, whoever we can, that we can be nimble with their work schedule, and employ their private skill sets. You got Joe Bonacci, a former first sergeant, retired in the Army. These are folks that I knew that I was going to be able to call on to do this uncommon work. You had Jeffrey Cooper, our municipal liaison. Having all his ties. He has every phone number of just about anybody you could imagine in government locally, and he can get them on the phone. So, it's really being able to know your people, know your craft, and then know how to solve an uncommon problem with the resources you have at hand. But Yeah, we did all this. I mean, back to back to back to back, from floods to snowstorms to COVID. I mean, I took office at the height of COVID. We stood up all the stations with LECOM, in terms of testing and treatment. Something that wasn't being done. And we lifted the mask mandates, opened our economy, and everybody thought, oh, it's going to be reckless. Well, we didn't lose anybody. We didn't lose a single life through any of those crises, the measles, even presently. I mean, it's about managing crisis, and I think that's the thing is, folks look forward in this election and how they look at like the mayor's race and compare me to other candidates. Like it's tried and true. I mean, the city would have been an absolute disaster had we not stepped in and sent those resources and worked directly with the city folks.
I still will never forget the image of a PennDOT highway plow coming down my little street on the Upper East Side, right, in the 5th Ward. I mean, it was as big as a house.
Are you talking about the grader?
Well, yeah, it was the grader. It was the grader.
So we needed the graders to get the hard-packed ice off.
Sure.
You think about how many of those we had, and grader teams and plow teams and
where did all those
teams.
Guys, I mean, you're saying people were coming up from Philly. Where'd they stay? Did we fill the hotels?
So we had hotels. We reserved all the hotels. We were parking. They did their shift change up at the Erie Sports Park in the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
So you go up there. I mean, it was close. We had the state police. We had, obviously the PennDOT secretary, the undersecretary, all his folks. And I mean, they're just looking at, that's our job at the county, is to lead through that disaster. It's not like PennDOT swooped in and solved it. They looked at us and said, where do you want us? Right. What do you need? And it's our job to tell them, hey, this is the assessment. Here's the bad areas. And, obviously you work as a team to figure that all out.
How much did all that cost, do you think?
I mean, I would guess probably, without the townships overtime, you're probably $4 to $5 million somewhere in there for that snow event.
And the state was in for like $1 million or
about
two,
$3.
right? $3 million.
Yeah, wow. That's about what they allocate. I think it was like $3 million from the state. I know we reimbursed, so we spent probably somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million from the county in terms of private contractors, the skid steers that you saw in the developments that you saw along the roads in Mill Creek and Harbor Creek and Northeast, the private plow companies, the companies. We had companies come clear in from New York and Ohio and southern, like clear down to Clarion.
Right.
We're coming in with large tractors, big snow blow. Any apparatus that
were
made
you telling
sense.
me the story that some of the local guys were burning out their transmissions because the snow was so intense?
So that's why you have to be careful. That's why you need heavy equipment. You can't do it with just
like an
a pickup truck or
heck,
even the F550s. That townships have. They were having a hard time. And then you start breaking your plows. It was wet. It was heavy. The freezing and thawing, and it just the massive amounts of snow. So you really need that heavy equipment. That's where my construction background. For me, that was a time where, my leadership had the opportunity to shine for the people of Erie County to say, hey, look, you might not like what I say. You might not like what I do. You might not like that I duke it out with county council. But just know in the end, number one, I'm showing up for you and I'm fighting for you. You might not like the methods. But at the end of the day, and that's what I tell folks, they say, well, what about like, the Times News or these folks will ask like, oh, well, what about your riffs with council? You guys want to focus on all the BS noise that doesn't make a bit of difference in the lives of everyday residents. They don't care about a tiff between a council member and the county executive. People don't care about that stuff. Mm-hmm. What matters is when stuff hits the fan, who's there? Do you ask a fireman or a policeman like, oh, what's the relationship with your coworkers when the guy's climbing through your window to save you and your kids when your house is on fire? No, you want that person that's going to show up, and when they're needed, you're there. And I've proven that. At the end of the day, delivering services effectively and knowing you have a leader at the helm that can lead through the most troubling things. People were concerned. Let's face it. What was I going to do in COVID? What's this young contractor, military officer going to do coming in, taking the height of COVID? I went under fire, and I proved that my plan and my methods worked.
We're talking to the county executive. You know what? I'm gonna stop there, take the break, and then we'll move forward here on some of the other bullet points because there's a lot going on around our county. It is 4:16 on Talk Erie. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. Moving along here with our conversation with the County Executive Brenton Davis. It is 4:19 on this Tuesday. All right, let's get to some of the other county business. I wanted to ask you about that presentation, $250,000 out in Mill Creek for the flood
stormwater.
deal.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean that's just part of the municipal gap investment fund. I mean, all those projects across the county. You know, obviously this is the stuff that, for whatever reason, you know, county council says we've allocated this elsewhere. It's all part of this BS noise that they want to create in an election year.
But where does that all stand? I mean, you're literally giving checks out.
Yep.
Is that money free and clear? I mean, can they cash that check?
So I mean, you got to really So I mean, a lot of them are already spending it. You know, so
Okay.
I mean, so you have to look at one what the lawsuits are and what they aren't.
Okay.
So I mean, 2025, we weren't sued in the 2025 budget, number one. And then the only thing the judge's decision really said is what they call an increase veto, which we're challenging in court. You know, obviously, if the county and the county executive doesn't have veto power, then what on earth do you even have an executive for? That's the whole point in the form of government. You know, the checks and balances. If council can just take something off the agenda and strike it from the agenda, not vote on it, do whatever they want to do, that's not checks and balances. You might as well have 3 commissioners and deal with the problems that come with 2 people making decisions as opposed to a larger body. You know, so at the end of the day, you also have to look at, in December 31st, the American Rescue Plan required us to essentially allocate our money. Right. So when, in the eyes of
2024.
Yeah. So in the eyes of county government, you know, my veto stood, and it still stands. I'm 100% firm in that, and I believe that we're going to be victorious when all this stuff comes to the Commonwealth Court. You know, I mean, this is pretty straightforward, common sense stuff. And so that's in the budget. We know I held on, you know, to give council that little bit of courtesy, which is why we didn't roll it out in January. But the problem was we had the U.S. Treasury send us a letter that basically said, hey, look, anything that's not allocated, we're going to start looking at clawing some stuff back and rigorously, like, looking at everybody's books. Okay. Does council really want to take the gamble of millions of dollars, go back to the federal government to help no one? Well, again, we talked about this in the previous segment here. I'm a man of action. I'm not going to sit there on my laurels and let the world happen to Erie County. For once, they've got an executive that's willing to call the BS, that's willing to shatter the illusions of what's going on in this town in terms of nonprofits and executive directors and all these folks fleecing the taxpayers. And I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stand up and fight for these people because you know what? That's $43 million in infrastructure that we're able to leverage. That's the largest tax cut in Erie County history. So when folks say, well, how is that? I don't see a reduction in my taxes this year. Well, that's not the form of way it's going to come. Yeah. You know, what's going to happen is imagine that stormwater project, that $250,000 unlocked nearly $2 million to solve a decades-old problem in Mill Creek. And it's just the beginning. Mm-hmm. You've got to keep doing it. So we haven't done this in 30 or 40 years. We've ignored infrastructure, and we've allowed development to occur, which has caused the issues that it has in Mill Creek. You keep building more houses and keep building more parking lots and more development, and you're not dealing with the stormwater, and it's the same old stuff and same old pipes, and those pipes corrode and collapse, so now they're restricted. There's a lot of different problems. You can only ignore it so long. You know, and that's to the point where we're at right now. So, I mean, to me, I'm unapologetic with what I've done. You know, and if the members of county council want to sue their own constituents to yank the rug out from under the largest tax cut in history, well, I guess that's something that they're going to have to deal with when they end up on the ballot. You know, but to me, I'm not going to let money go back to the federal government. And I'm damn sure not going to feed it to DEI and all these other failed programs.
But just walk with me a second here. I could totally imagine that the representative that represents Mill Creek, which is Terry Scatella, would absolutely support investment in his district.
But he's the very guy that said in the news, council quote, had it allocated for other projects and they're unnamed. They're not allocated. The money has to be spent in accordance with what was reported on December 31st, 2024. And that was something that a lot of these folks don't know. But in the DEI lawsuit, when we were trying to limit the amount of spending that they could spend in overhead, they wanted 50% of that $1.5 million to be used for overhead. And I'm like, absolutely not. Of course, we're going to go to court on this. And we limited them at 23 because of an exorbitant executive director contract yet again. But
limited to 23%.
23%. So DEI wanted to use half of that money for overhead, salaries, office expenses. And I'm like, absolutely not. That's not what it's for. So under the court ruling, we got them down to 23%. That's a victory. And people say, oh, well, you lost. No, a settlement is not a loss. What it is we put 27% more money out into the community where it belongs. We should have been 100%. They shouldn't be able to use any of this. But at the end of the day, that December 31st, 2024 reporting that we had to do for that lawsuit that the judge that we're in front of still was a part of that for a different suit. So, I'm 100% confident when this is looked at, he understands it. Anybody that's involved, and that's a problem with a part-time counsel, is they get little tidbits of information and then they have strongly held, lightly informed opinions in which they go out here and make statements to the media that only has a slight modicum of truth to it most of the time, but where the rubber meets the road for those of us that do it full time with the legal, advice and of our solicitors and the court processes and all the different things. The reality looks a heck of a lot different than the picture they paint. But again, like you said, common sense would prevail. You would think somebody like Terry Scatella would look at, hey, this is a huge investment, and I'm a resident of Mill Creek. Why wouldn't you want that $2 million project to move forward where you don't have to raise taxes in Mill Creek to take care of it?
I understand. But how does this shake out? Because this was just one of the multiple municipal gap checks. I remember, what was it, last month where you said you had that big press conference that said, here I'm distributing all of this money, right? Isn't that under a cloud?
I don't think it's under a cloud because it's in the 2025 budget. We can dispute this. And here's the thing. Like I said, there's two competing things here, right, that have never happened in history. You have the American Rescue Plan law regulated by the U.S. Treasury, and then you have an executive and a council challenging the paradigms of the executive's veto, which, mind you, they've pretty much had rubber stamp Democrat councils for the most part in the past, but nobody challenged this when Executive Dahlkemper or any of the executives prior vetoed things. They all knew it took 5 votes to override it. So what they did with this strike, getting 4 votes to just, we're not going to talk about it.
Is there a strike in history too?
No.
So you've never seen a strike?
So the only time you see a strike is it's an administrative process. So let's say you send out an appointment. I'm going to have Joel Natale go for X, Y, and Z, and somebody says, that's a conflict of interest, or he says, I'm no longer interested. Well, you utilize a strike to just take something off the agenda. Well, what they're doing is they're striking it to remove something off the agenda they legit need to vote on that they damn well knew they didn't have 5 votes for. So, they're using it to usurp the executive veto.
Why do you think you lost in common court?
Well, just like you look at the legal... so we didn't lose in Commonwealth Court. So Commonwealth Court... Common Pleas.
The Common Pleas. Yeah.
So, we didn't even lose. So what the judge did is the judge basically played King Solomon and split the baby in half and really tried to strongly encourage both parties to come back and say, I'm going to kind of split this in the middle in hopes we don't have to visit this again. And keep in mind, he's a retiring judge from another county. He's just trying to make peace. And that's a lot of times that's what judges do. But I believe, and our solicitors and our legal counsel believes, that he misinterpreted, obviously, the law, or at least the surrounding that veto. It's plain and simple.
Are there not any I feel like this is, this is a Kissinger moment here. Are there not any negotiations between the administration and council right now over this kind of things? Because again, I'm back in this.
There's nothing.
Wouldn't Terry Scatella like $250,000 for Mill Creek?
I've learned that you never say never, and common sense doesn't always prevail in dealing with some of these folks. Their political ideology and the strongly held, lightly informed opinions, they recognize this municipal gap as a win for me, and a loss for them, instead of looking at it as this is plain out a win for Erie County. Like, I don't benefit from any of this personally. I don't like, I mean, I could have been the executive to go along and get along historically, like many have, and accomplish nothing. But we see, like you talked about, I mean, like, what's going on in the mayor's race and the different endorsements and the way, but people don't want leaders to go along and get along. By very definition, you are not a leader by doing so. It's one thing you can be a nice person. People can like you. But at the end of the day, you have to be effective. You have to get stuff done. And that means taking decisive action. This move with the municipal gap and putting forward the largest tax cut in Erie County history, that's for the taxpayers of Erie County. That's who I did it for. And it's the same thing as taking decisive action during Snowmageddon, during the 38 wildfires, during COVID, during the measles. Decisive action.
We got to take the bottom of the hour break. The county executive is with us. Stay with us. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. First Tuesday of the month, we try to connect with the county executive. Works out most months here, like this month. County Executive Brenton Davis is with us. Good to see you, sir. Let's keep chatting here. I want to ask about what happened in Corey, because again, you do a lot in Corey. Corey is a very important part of Erie County. But there was that back and forth and a loss of significant federal funding. Appalachian Resource Council, I think that's how you pronounce it, right?
The Appalachian Regional Commission.
Regional Commission, excuse me. And
so that was $800,000. It was allocated the fiber project. Again, I mean that project was way too big for a small nonprofit to undertake. I mean, you look at the 11 county initiative that we have for broadband right now. That's 11 counties putting together almost half a billion dollars.
Is this aligned with the the broadband bill or whatever, that Build Back Better?
100%.
Okay.
So, and that's currently on a 90-day hold. So you have the NTIA, right, which is the federal organization that oversees it, which kicks money to the Pennsylvania Broadband Authority, which, again, much like the American Rescue Plan, figures out how they're going to chop this up and who's going to get it. So the 11 counties of the Northwest, I mean, we sat there and said, like, look, we're not going to be the runt at the trough any longer. So we got these folks together, and we're going to do an 11-county consortium. That's already put together. It's already formalized in an intergovernmental agreement. And, so as you think about it, 11 counties leveraging these funds, to expect a two-person nonprofit to be able to leverage out a project of this nature with public utilities, I mean, it was lunacy. I mean, there's a ton of money that was lost, and the 800,000's money that goes back, so that's federal money. Mm-hmm. But, folks get upset about it, but this project was never going to happen, and we've quietly watched for probably the last 18 months, and even our broadband consultants, our planning folks, all these folks are just like, they listen in these meetings of, the small nonprofit, their Impact Corey coming down there saying, hey, this is what we're doing. And, even after the fact, people are kind of like, okay, they're letting you sit at the big kids table or what have you. But at the end of the day, it was not going to happen, and that's where I had to, again, take decisive action.
Didn't they get even DCED money? Did they get RCAP money too, or no?
No, I mean, I think the only thing in the capital stack. So the capital stack that I'm aware of right now is the $800,000 from the Appalachian Regional Commission, which the city of Corey was on the hook for and sent that back, because the reason why you have to send that back is they have until October. There's no way you're finishing that project by October.
They had to finish it by October?
Had to finish it by October. So, I mean, that's the whole point. So, I mean, keep in mind, I took this all the way to the White House. I met with all the directors from the state, the feds, Congressman Kelly, Senator McCormick. I mean, we had everybody. I even called one of the White House chiefs. We're sitting there talking to these folks, and I'm like, can't we utilize this $800,000 for another project? Well, obviously, they're not going to let you change horses that close to October, and it's got to be done by October. Like, we're not going to get anything finished by October. So the problem is, you think about it like, you're given the opportunity to do emergency landing with an aircraft, right? Here's an airport. You can safely land it. No harm, no foul. If we would have taken that all the way to October with that grant and failed, now we're on the blacklist. You're on Sienna's naughty federal list of not getting any funding in the future through the Regional Commission and potentially other grant funding sources.
And that ARC, that's a difference maker
100%
for our area.
So, I mean, you have to make the responsible decision. You have to take decisive action. And again, keep in mind, we had $250,000 of county allotted American Rescue Plan money in that project. So what I did is I enabled them, the Mayor Baker and the elected council came and said, hey, can we transfer that money to Hare Creek to deal with the stormwater project? Absolutely, done deal. So we did that. And then come to do some research, you look at the county, unfortunately, had another $598,000, $598,736.72, which was a vast portion of the $4 million that went again yet to ECRA. That's $600,000 that went to pay yet again salaries, engineering fees, and all these other things. So here's $600,000 of taxpayer money that went through ECRA that got squandered. That money is going to go to absolutely no effect because these folks, you're not doing research. You're not connected high enough up the food chain to see what's maneuvering against you. When you operate in a vacuum,
but this project's been going on for 2-3 years, right?
Longer than that, 2019.
Okay. So what? No red flags back then? You're saying?
I mean,
there had to be some people that thought it was a good idea.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, when you know that $800,000 is running out, but that's the thing. When you get folks that siphon grant money, right? You belong to a nonprofit. You operate off of grants. You look at a huge chunk of this went into executive salaries. So, I mean, does it matter to these folks whether this gets done or not? Well, I mean, I got a paycheck, so we just keep funneling money to our cronies to pay their salaries and in turn endorsing candidates for offices and running for offices. I mean, come on. The taxpayers of Erie County are not stupid. I mean, they can see where the money goes. They can follow the money. They can see who's on the ballots. And they can see what the undertone is. There is a clear us versus them. There is this versus that on the ballot here this year, not only now in May in the primary, but in the fall. I mean, do you want this status quo, business as usual, or do you want somebody that's standing up for the taxpayers? And, I mean, we're seeing that in a lot of these townships.
Mm-hmm. Let's pivot to the casino because we mentioned ECRA a few times. Again, that is the cash cow. That is the source of revenue. Presque Isle Downs is hurting.
So let's dial back even further. When I was sitting here as a contractor talking about the community college, when Kathy Dahlkemper, executive at the time, said, "Oh, this isn't going to cost the taxpayers anything." Well, I hate to tell you, they're banking on gaming revenue, and I even said back then it's an irresponsible use of money. Because, I mean, what happens? Oh, the casino's not going to go away. Like you said, they're in trouble. I've talked to the leadership. We've talked to the state legislators, state reps, state senators. I mean, there's a lot of concern. You've got skills games that are not paying anything.
They don't pay even a license?
Nothing.
It's insane.
I'm working on a little trick for that.
I'm going to say, is there anything we could do locally?
100%. I'm already on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, even if it's something that if we can find a way, I mean, whether it's a fee or a license to put on these skills games. And again, I think it's predatory. You go down to these like Lucky's Mart and all these folks down here. I mean, it's these folks living in homeless shelters, spending their Social Security benefits. I mean, these folks are not well off sitting there pumping money into a machine. You can't tell me that that's in the best interest of our community, having these things. Illegal casinos of sorts. And it's a skill. It takes absolutely no skill. It's the same thing. And then how do you know that these machines aren't being rigged, against these people? So, I mean, I have a lot of concerns. But, I mean, we've got to look at it. I mean, you look at the political landscape. You look at the conditions of the casino. And it's no wonder why certain folks are making moves maybe away from ECRA looking for other employment. I mean, with the Auditor General investigation underway, you've got the casino closing its doors. I mean, I think you've got a state legislature that's poised to potentially do away with this completely. And again, we're the only casino gaming revenue authority in the state. So when you're the only one of something, I mean, I've learned a long time ago in the military, if you're the only one standing somewhere, I mean, chances are you're probably wrong.
Talk about how the devastation that would mean to Erie County should the casino.
Well, I mean, think about it.
fail,
I mean, there's a lot of problems, and I mean that's why we have to do everything in our power to try to enable these casinos to keep going because that's the deal we made. But I mean, it's done a lot of good, and it could do a lot of good. And unfortunately, I think we squandered the last 12 years of casino gaming revenue money to nonprofits and things that don't lower our taxes and, $442 filet mignon, meals at the Erie Club, But other counties don't have this, So, I mean, yes, it will be a big hit to money and things that we've been able to do. Community grants, block grants, I mean, any of these, it's meant for EMS and infrastructure is really what the law is meant for. It should support EMS. It should support things like our municipal gap fund, keeping people's taxes
Summit
low.
has been able to really take advantage of
Summit, because they're part of the LSA.
Right.
I mean, they're an impacted community, so they get their own share. Yeah. So, I mean, you think about how Summit's been able to keep their taxes low is because they've been able to do that. But they put almost $1 million into EMS every year, and then they run all over God and creation under mutual aid. Because they're the only
one able to
so, I mean,
respond.
That would be a huge issue, But again, if it happens, you've got to be resilient. We didn't have it before. You make adjustments. It's like a husband or a wife losing a job or maybe not getting a Christmas bonus. You figure it out, and we're going to fight to keep it.
It's just tough because you're like talking $11 million a year of an infusion into our local economy to lose that. It's like losing a major plant. It's like losing Hammer Mill all over again. That's horrible.
Well, I mean, that's, again, I mean, we squandered our moment. I mean, when you allow a part-time board to squander your gaming revenue, I mean, think how much, if we would have consistently made, you look at the impact this municipal gap fund, which is $6 million has made, $43 million. I mean, think about it. If we would have leveraged money in the same way for decades, that's hundreds and hundreds, if not billions of dollars that we could have unlocked with other grant funds, other different things. I mean, Corey has a sewer plant that has at least $50 to $75 million of work. I mean, we talked about, we had the Erie Waterworks, CEO on here last week, and you talk about the $60-some million that they put in just for lead pipe replacements. And you're not even talking about stormwater and all the upgrades and, the condition of some folks' roads. I mean, there's just a lot of different issues that could have been solved had we have done casino gaming revenue as it was meant to. We wouldn't be in an EMS crisis. 40% of Erie County residents can't get an ambulance when and where you need it right now. It's still that way. So I mean, we wouldn't be in that crisis. And granted, I mean, we had 18% of drop calls when I came into office, 1,267 drop calls in 2022 when I first took office, and we started mapping the data. Before I came into office, we had no idea how many drop calls we were missing. So I mean, we went from 18% drop calls down to less than 2% now. So I mean, that's a huge leap forward, but it's still not good enough. We still have a lot more work to do. I mean, that casino gaming revenue money should be supporting EMS. 100%.
Let's talk about the nuts and bolts at the county here. How's the hiring going? Because you have that situation where can the county be competitive on wages given the current climate?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you look at things like we've done, right? So, I mean, we cut 74 positions out of this budget in 2025. It's the same thing I've been trying to get council to do for the last 3 years. Say, hey, look, this isn't sustainable. You got all these vacant positions that don't pay anything. So, I mean, what we've really done is incentivize. So the most recent example would be up at public safety with the telecommunicators. The union up there, and, we just ratified that, passed it, and gave a pay increase. But what we did is we looked at all the positions. And I said to all my department heads, I said, look, I want you to, say, for instance, you want your folks to have a raise, fine. We're going to find it. But it's not going to come on the backs of the taxpayers. The way it's going to come is through efficiencies. So if you have, say, 5 vacant positions that you can't fill, okay, well, you're going to cut 3 of them and then add up whatever that money. So let's just say hypothetically that's $100,000 per vacancy. So you take that vacancy, you're able to take 80% of that money. 20% automatically went to the taxpayers for a saving. So we're saving 20% off the top. Automatic. You take that 80%, that $80,000 out of that position that'd be left, and I allowed them to distribute that in terms of positions that they want to give pay increases to. But with that, you're not just going to pay people more. When you make more, you got to do more. So you got to realign whatever the positions are. And some of the things, take like the 911 telecommunications, corrections officers, things of that nature. Like, how much more can you ask these folks to do? What I mean? Their job is what their job is. It's difficult, and it was underpaid, especially when I came into office. So, I mean, we've been able to go leaps and bounds in terms of that, too. But, I mean, you ask anybody, I mean, who doesn't want to make more money? I mean, there's a limit to a market. You can only pay so much. And at the end of the day, government doesn't create jobs. We create liabilities. So every job that you create, you create a job for a person to work, but it's a liability to the taxpayer, and that's money you got to come up with. So, I mean, it's just through those different strategies we've been able to elevate the pay. My first budget proposal would have moved the minimum wage. So when I came into office, the lowest wage we had in county government was $9.66 an hour.
Where was that at?
In the courts. And then now our lowest wage is right around, I think, $14.74. So I've been able to elevate it. But in my first budget proposal, in union contract, we have to negotiate all this stuff. I wanted to elevate the bottom end of county government to somewhere right around $17. $17 is what I figured we could do without really changing the budget. But the problem is you got to get that ratified through each of the unions, and the leaders at the top generally control what gets back to the members. And then, if there's nothing in it for them, well, why are they gonna peddle that offer, right? So I mean, a lot of that happened, unfortunately, and that's one of the most disappointing things, because you come into office, and as a military leader, I learned to take care of the troops, and when you see folks that are struggling, you redistribute the weight. And unfortunately, like, we don't have that same kind of mantra, throughout county government. It's folks more worried about, well, if so-and-so gets elevated to 17 and I've been here for 5 years and I only make 17, they're so worried about what's in somebody else's wallet in a lot of terms, as opposed to just like, look, you have to do this in incremental steps. You can't fix the entire system. You can't do it at all in one fell swoop. And then it's kind of the old adage of like, I suffered, you should too. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, that's not how you move an organization forward. But unfortunately,
well, and that's not the reality of the current marketplace. I mean, you're competing. I'm thinking of people in social service. Think about all the different places that somebody that could be a great employee for OCY would have options for. And they're 100%. dangling signing bonuses.
Listen, I mean, people leave every day. Yeah. People leave every day. I mean, coming and going, and you can't blame people for moving on to better opportunities. I mean, you should prepare your people to move on. Like, it's not the goal, as a leader in an organization, to keep people in that same position. You should develop them to rise up through the ranks, and then allow them, say, hey, look, here's some other opportunities. I don't ever get mad when somebody's like, hey, I got an opportunity to go work at National Fuel and Leadership or Erie Insurance or whatever it is. Best of luck to you. That's career broadening. Good for you. You're going to learn something. And hopefully maybe you left a good enough mark on them that's your next director as they go and get this different, or go to one of the other nonprofits or, therapy or state or wherever it is. That's really what it's about. It's nothing personal at the end of the day when it comes down to employment. But, I mean, that's the challenge of dealing with, 8 different union contracts and different union representatives and, the animus surrounding all those negotiations. Like, look, we don't want to take anything from anybody. At the end of the day, I mean, if I could pay everybody, make everybody rich without throwing it on the backs of taxpayers, who wouldn't do that? But, I mean, it's a limited pot of money. And you got to do with what you want. And when council in previous years wasn't willing to make these cuts, what are you going to do? You've only, I mean, it's eating a slice of pizza, a box of pizza. If there's only 3 of us, we're going to eat decent. Bring 150 people off the street and cut that pizza up, and you wonder, like, what the hell is this, Joel? You're cheap, But like, you have what you have,
right.
And you can't turn the taxpayers upside down to pay for the party. I mean, unless you're at ECRA.
I want to ask you one more question, County Executive, about this measles outbreak. Really, the health department did an amazing job, didn't they? I mean,
100% stellar job. I mean, so we had 8 cases. It was the highest in the state of Pennsylvania.
Was it really?
So 8 cases amazing. Was the highest. It was 2 isolated incidents, and unfortunately, it was like at a child care facility. And but I mean, just how well they did, and like, granted, contact tracing, it all goes back to the bread and butter, what the health department's here for. Communicable diseases, COVID. I mean, like, we didn't miss a beat. Like, been there, done that. Seen this movie, wrote the sequel. So I mean, these folks really got after it. I mean, we called leadership in on a Saturday when it hit. Got right to the families, did the isolations, did all the interviews, done the contact tracing, did all the things necessary they needed to contain this, and then really educate these folks. We've seen an uptick in the measles vaccinations and, the things that keep it from spreading. And but I mean, I can't say enough about how hard these folks work. They really care. All the leaders, salary employees, managers, in there working, making hundreds of phone calls, Saturday, Sunday, house calls, public health nurses doing visits, taking care of little kids itching and scratching and dealing with the measles, like, it's not a fun time. And then working with the health systems, I'm on the phone with the CEOs talking about different doctors' offices. And then all this, keep in mind, I mean, council throwing the screws, the administration, cutting our public information officer. That is what a public information officer is there, to communicate with the public. So now I'm just doing double duty. I'm running social media, managing the press conferences, managing the press outreach, managing the press releases. I've got my executive assistant writing a lot of this stuff, Joe Sinnott stepping up. So, I mean, despite all the attempts to hinder any movement that we've been able to do, cutting positions, and I mean, heck, that is the whole purpose of county government, to be transparent and to manage through crisis is that position. That's why it's there. And unfortunately, we don't have any public information officer due to the will of council. Well, I mean, it is what it is.
I've heard that they probably could have funded that position with a little bit of a conversation back and forth.
But we don't deal in probablys. Government doesn't deal in probablys. They deal in votes. So when you take a guy that's married with 2 kids, a baby, and another on the way, and you cut their livelihood, and you sit there and say you care about people, we care about the residents of Erie County. What if this measles would have just became COVID? And we're out there leading with the health department. Who's communicating with the public? And then you cry that I use the county social media the way that I do. Like, again, I'm unapologetic. As a military leader and a self-employed contractor, you find the pathway. No matter what comes through the breach, you handle it. And this is no different. This doesn't slow us down. We continue to, they might not like the methods. They might not like how it's done. But you know what? You threw the football over here. Now we're going to play ball.
Going to leave it there. County Executive Brenton Davis, appreciate you taking the time, sir.
Glad to have you.
Glad to be here. Stay safe. It is 5 minutes in front of 5.